Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we dive into a chilling tale, The Horrible by Guy de Maupassant. This isn't a simple retelling, it's a reimagined narration, reshaped with suspense and cinematic detail to bring fresh life to a classic story of true horror. Night was settling over the villa, warm and heavy, shadows stretching across the garden. Inside, the women lingered in the drawing room, while the men gathered outside, perched on chairs around a table cluttered with cups and glasses. Their cigars glowed like watchful eyes in the thickening dark. The conversation drifted to tragedy, a dreadful accident from the night before. 5 guests, 2 men and 3 women, swallowed by the river while others looked on helplessly. General D.G. broke the silence. His tone was sharp, deliberate. Yes, such things move us, they disturb us, but they are not horrible. Horror is something deeper, something beyond terror. A death, no matter how tragic, does not horrify. Blood does not horrify. Even crime, at its vilest, rarely horrifies. True horror demands mystery, a sense of unnatural dread. He leaned forward, his eyes shadowed. Let me tell you what horror truly is. I learned it during the War of 1870. We were retreating toward Pont-Audemer, 20,000 broken men, starving, exhausted, fleeing under a black sky. Snow covered the ground, and the air was so cold it burned. The march was endless, boots crunching, tin bowls clinking, muskets dragging, faces hollow, shoulders bent, uniforms in tatters. Some soldiers walked barefoot, leaving trails of blood in the snow. And when one of them sat down to rest, he never rose again. Every man who stopped was already dead. We pressed forward through the snow, leaving behind those poor souls who thought a brief rest might save them. But the moment they stopped, the cold claimed them. Their blood froze in their veins, their bodies stiffened like wood, and they sank slowly, foreheads on their knees, locked in a posture of death. The stronger among us trudged on, driven not by will, but by sheer inertia. Through the night, through the endless snow, through a land that felt like a grave, pain, defeat, despair weighed on us. But worst of all was the sensation that we had been abandoned, that nothingness itself was swallowing us whole. Then I saw them, 2 gendarmes dragging a peculiar little man, old, frail, beardless, with a sly, restless look. The words spread like fire, spy. In an instant, the exhausted soldiers, barely able to stand, were electrified with rage. A voice shouted, "He must be shot!" and the mob surged, thirsting for blood. I tried to intervene. I was a battalion commander, but authority meant nothing anymore. They would have shot me as quickly as him. The gendarmes insisted. "He has followed us for 3 days, asking questions about the artillery." I confronted the man myself. "What are you doing here? Why are you following the army?" He stammered in a dialect none of us understood. His narrow shoulders trembled, his eyes darted with a mix of fear and cunning. He looked ancient, feeble, yet strangely dangerous. Around us the soldiers roared, "To the wall! To the wall!" Their fury was unstoppable. And in that moment I realized horror was not in the snow, nor in the death that surrounded us. It was in the madness of men, the mob's hunger for blood.
I had barely finished speaking when chaos erupted. A violent shove sent me sprawling, and in an instant the mob descended upon the prisoner. They dragged him through the snow, slammed him against a tree, and unleashed their fury. Shots rang out, one after another, relentless. Soldiers fought for the chance to fire, their muskets cracking like thunder, until the body was riddled beyond recognition. It was less an execution than a frenzy, a ritual of destruction. Then a cry tore through the night. The Prussians! The Prussians! Panic spread like wildfire. The very men who had just emptied their rage into the corpse now fled in terror, vanishing into the darkness, leaving only silence behind. I remained with the body, flanked by 2 gendarmes bound by duty. Together we lifted the mangled remains, a grotesque heap of flesh and blood. "Search him," I ordered, striking a match to light the scene. One by one, the pockets revealed their secrets: a knife, a handkerchief, a snuff box, a piece of bread. Nothing more. The flames sputtered out, and another match was lit. Still nothing. "Strip him," I commanded. The soldiers obeyed, peeling away the garments under the flickering light. And then, suddenly, a cry. "My God, General, it's a woman!" I froze. My heart clenched with a pain I cannot describe. I knelt in the snow, staring at what remained of her, unable to reconcile the truth. Horror was no longer in the violence of the mob, it was in the revelation that beneath the blood and ruin lay a woman, silenced forever by blind rage.
The brigadier's voice broke the silence, slow and heavy. Perhaps she came searching for a son in the artillery, a son she never heard from again. Another soldier murmured, "Yes, perhaps that is so." And I, who had witnessed horrors beyond counting, felt tears burn my eyes. There, in the frozen night, on that desolate plain, before the broken body of a stranger, I finally understood the word horror. It was not death alone, but mystery, cruelty, and the unbearable weight of the unknown. That same sensation returned to me only once more, in the desert, when I questioned a survivor of the Flatter's mission. You know the tale, but perhaps not all of it. Colonel Flatters led his men across the endless sands of the Sahara, through the domain of the Tuaregs, desert raiders as merciless as the pirates of old. His guides from the Chamba tribe swore loyalty. Yet one voice whispered of betrayal. Flatters ignored it. He marched on with his officers, his engineers, his doctors, straight into an ambush. At the spring they were slaughtered, the camels seized. The survivors, abandoned in the burning void, staggered back under a sun that devoured them by day and a night that offered no mercy. One tribe came bearing dates as tribute. The men ate. The dates were poisoned. Almost all perished, including the last officer. Only a handful remained, Spahis, sharpshooters, and their quartermaster Pobegin. With 2 camels left, they vanished into the desert one night, swallowed by the sands, never to be seen again. And so, whether in the snow of Normandy or the fire of the Sahara, horror is not the clash of armies, nor the sight of blood. It is the silence that follows, the mystery of lives erased, and the unbearable truth that we may never know why. The survivors soon realized the unthinkable. They would have to feed on one another. When 2 men fled with the last camels, the rest scattered, each trudging alone across the burning sands, keeping a gunshot's distance apart. All day they marched, solitary figures raising thin columns of dust beneath the merciless sun. Then, one morning, hunger drove one soldier to turn back toward another. The man behind him dropped to the ground, aimed, and fired. He missed. The advancing soldier raised his weapon and with a single shot killed his comrade. The others rushed in, desperate for their share. The killer carved the body into pieces, distributing the flesh like rations, and then, as if bound by a grim pact, they spread out again, waiting for the next murder that would bring them together. For 2 days they survived on human flesh. When hunger returned, the same man killed again, butchered again, and fed the others. The retreat became a march of cannibals, each step more monstrous than the last. At last, the final Frenchman, Paul, was slaughtered beside a well on the very night before supplies arrived. And so, General de G concluded, this is horror. Not the battlefield, not blood, not tragedy, but the moment when men, stripped of hope, devour one another in the desert.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.